What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Links and Locks Best Bets podcast. I'm Jason Sobel from the Action Network. He is Ben Everill, sitting like way too close to me right now. We're coming to you live from the Media Hotel in Rochester, New York, site of this week's PGA Championship, where we will crown a winner at Oak Hill Country Club this week. Ben, you were like, seriously, like our knees are almost touching.
But look, if you could span around, we
close.
can't right now with the camera, but we're actually in the room where they try to, get you to have your wedding here at this hotel in Rochester.
It's like 10 by 10.
Oh, look, I mean, what I'm saying is they try to teach. This is the stuff where they show you. This is the type of flowers we have. It's like where they have the meeting with the prospective bride and groom, and they sit down and they decide, what it's going to look like. So I'm feeling very lovey, is what I'm saying, mate.
Well, you and I may come together with our vows on a winner of this podcast.
Yes.
Oh, you like it? Cheers.
Cheers.
All right.
Having a good week.
All right.
Good week, everyone.
Cheers to the hotel bar, which is
And cheers
going well so far.
to my mate getting victory last week.
Let's talk a little bit about your mate, Jason Day. I believe all it took was for you to not back him.
Correct.
For the first time all year for Jason Day to finally get that elusive 13th career PGA Tour win, first in just over 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what you know from Jason's win.
So full disclosure, and I feel bad actually because I'll tell you guys out there, prior to the start of the Nelson, Sobel did talk to me about Jason. He said, I really like Jason next week. And I said, look, mate, I've just picked him at Wells Fargo. He's missed the cut. I need to talk to him. I haven't talked to him yet. I just want to make sure he's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll, make a play on that. And I didn't get to talk to him prior to you making your picks and me making my picks or anything. So we kind of left him out. Then I did speak to him prior, and he was very confident, looking very good, and he gave me good vibes. So, in my later stuff, I will say this, online at golfbet.com and pgatour.com, I did have Jason. I also drew him after the first round, and on Saturday night said, pick Jason. So I just was late to the podcast here.
Yeah.
So apologies to the listeners out there that I didn't get it out there for you. I just wasn't that confident until I spoke to him after the missed cut.
So I said two things about Jason last week. One was I want an investment on Jason Day. Yeah. I don't want it at 16-1 for a guy who hadn't won in 5 years. And look, I'll take the L on that. I like him. I don't like him at that number. It's way too short. And so you don't play him. Sometimes you get burned by not playing a guy that you want because the number isn't right. You know what? If that's the case, fine. I'll take the L on that. And I just didn't have any shares of Day there. But I also did say on the pod last week, because Jason had finished 51st and missed cut at TPC Craig Ranch in the previous two editions of the AT&T Byron Nelson. And so what I said about that, the fact that he's going back, now that he's playing well, he's in the PGA Championship, he doesn't have to worry about qualifying for anything. Yeah. The fact that he's going back there makes me think there's something in that golf course that he really likes, because why else would he go back without having a top 50 in the two previous years and a major coming up the next week?
Well, essentially, yes, he did like the way it looked for his game. He liked the way he was hitting it, and he wanted to maintain the momentum. And to be perfectly honest to everyone out there, he was looking to peak this week. Wow. And he's just gone a little early on that. But what I'm really excited about is, look, there's so many storylines. Obviously, it was on Mother's Day that he won. Yep. Very emotional for him. But to get it done, shooting such a low score on Sunday. Yeah. And look, I know it wasn't the biggest field we've had this year, but there were a lot of guys in contention. Mm-hmm. We had 6 people tied for the lead at one point, another 5 within one shot of the lead at one point on the back 9 there. It was there to be taken, and he took it. And that's old school Jason Day. The vertigo comes up when he's under pressure, under stress. Mm-hmm. That was pretty stressful. He got it done. I'm not only expecting that this will be that's obviously a big moment for him, but I actually expect it'll open the floodgates once again for Jason Day.
So 2 things about that. First of all, for years, I have talked to players about, okay, you want to do the Tiger thing. You want your game to peak 4 times a year. How do you do that? My favorite response I ever got was from Jason Day. This is probably 10, 12 years ago, where I said, hey, do you want your game to peak 4 times a year for the majors? He said, yeah, of course I do. How do you make that happen? He looked at me, just shrugged his shoulders like, no idea. It's not like I'm going to not try to play well the week before a major. So, case in point. The second part of this is, and look, Jason has said, he actually said it at Wells Fargo the previous week, I'm going to win, and when I win, it's going to come in bunches. Yeah. Twice in his career, 2015 and 2016, he won in back-to-back starts. Just throwing it out there, maybe Jason Day, with that monkey off his back, can play some good golf this week. Before we get into our plays, as always, 18 picks, playing 18 holes. As a reminder, the Links and Locks podcast is proudly presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer. Bet $1 on any game, get $200 in bonus bets. Must be 21 or older. Offer available in Colorado, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia in the U.S. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Benny, let's get to the first tee at Oak Hill Country Club.
Mate, I'm
And
ready.
you
We have just spoken about the man. I'm going to give you my first outright pick.
That's it?
It is Jason Day.
All right.
I'm going back to the well because, as you mentioned, he is no stranger to playing well back-to-back weeks. It's been a long time. It is a big ask, right, to say go back-to-back when you've had 5 years between victories. But he is just pinging on all the good metrics that you need to be here this week. And also, like, he's just in such confident and good space now. He does that. Pressure is off. The gorilla is off the back, so to speak. And look, he's won the PGA before, 2015. I've got him at 5th in scoring average, 17th greens in regulation, 7th stroke gain total, 11th strokes gain putting, 12th tee to green, 17th in approach, 29th off the tee, 30th around the greens.
Fair.
And also, he was T8 here 10 years ago. Now, we didn't get into this yet, and actually this will be say, well, we should do this right now.
Okay.
Because here's what happened for me. I decided and have been deciding for weeks, how am I going to figure out who's going to play well at Oak Hill, right? We don't play there every year. We don't come here. But we did play here 10 years ago. I was here that week.
I was too. I remember nothing about it, by the way.
Well, I can give you one.
You hang out that week?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, probably. I was back in the Aussie job then, so I was very focused on Day and Scott and whatever.
Yeah.
But here's what this might tweak your memory, which is where there are comparisons. Now, look, 10 years, different course though. Right, this is the thing we have to remember, right? They've redone the greens, they've redone the bunkers, they've taken out trees, and they've allowed it to become more friendly for the bombers, etc. But I still think we might have some parallels to what happened 10 years ago, and this is what happened. Tiger Woods won the week before. Tiger Woods was a 4-1 favorite committee. He won at Akron for the 8th time. Okay, everyone's talking about how he hadn't won a major in 5 years. Right, that major season we'd already seen awesome things where we'd had Adam Scott won the first Masters for Australia. Big deal. Justin Rose won a major for the first time, which was, something well-deserved. Tiger had won the Players.
I remember all those very clearly.
Phil won the Open. So we had this awesome season, and then the script was written. Tiger was going to win the PGA at Oak Hill.
Right.
Instead, we got a scruffy-looking Jason Duffner, who, to be fair, was 21st in the world, was a ball-striking machine, was doing all these great things. But that's what we ended up with. We ended up with Duffner, Furyk, Adam Scott was sort of there, Stenson.
Yeah.
I think Jonas Blixt was 4th, right? To me, I feel like we're mirroring the scenario where we've got these straight-up favourites in Scheffler and Rahm everyone's talking about. They should probably play really well. The Tiger didn't do that last time.
Yep.
And then you've got all this value in inverted commas and guys in the 20 to 30 to 40 to 1. And that's where I think, I don't know about you, but that's where I've sort of got my focus this week.
I agree with that. First of all, my main takeaway from this is that Jason's win in Rochester. If he likes Jason Day, coming off a Jason Duffner win, I just feel like this is a good spot for Jason. I may never leave.
Yeah.
The second part of that is you're not wrong about that 20 to 1 to 41 range. I tend to start off with a guy who's a bigger number.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go to the second hole, give you my long shot outright. There's a few different names I could put in here, but I'm going to read to you from my preview this week because I can read it better than I can say it here and explain it. During the initial stages of Tiger Woods' physical decline, I was often asked what professional golf would look like once he was no longer competitive. My answer at the time was that there wasn't and will never be another Tiger waiting in the wings, but that his dominance would essentially be shared by a group of elite players, whether that would mean 5 or 10 or 20 or more players. That's largely now what we're witnessing, as you could basically stare at the first 15 to 20 names on the board this week and have a difficult time discerning between them and figuring out who you want to play. Now, I'm using all of that to get to the main point here, which is, it makes it tougher with the parity, and I get that John Rahm's really good. I get that Scottie Scheffler's really good, but it makes it more difficult with the parity that, okay, you've got all these other guys, the next tier grouped in there, that range we were just talking about.
Yep.
What I found is that the guys, I call them third tier or whatever they might be, those guys are all of a sudden falling to a much bigger number. And so there is some equity in playing a guy who's got a bigger number next to his name. And I'm going to start this out. Look, there's a few names that intrigue me. I could throw Gary Woodland on this list.
Yep.
Tom Hoge's got a massive number. He was number 1 in strokes gained on approach shots before last week. He's now number 2, but I mean, we're talking about a whole chilly week. Guy from North Dakota is not going to be too worried about that. He's got a little Duffner kind of vibe to him too.
Massive. Yeah.
But the guy I'm going with here for a long shot outright, because we know he can win this thing. He's done it in the past. We know when he plays his best golf, it can stand up against anyone else who's a good player. Keegan Bradley at 90-1.
All right. Former winner of the championship.
Exactly.
I can see that. 90-1.
He's won a major. He's won a WGC. He's won a playoff event. He won the Zozo last year.
Season.
There's a lot of big events that Keegan's beaten, not just like pretty good fields, but like the field, like everybody.
Yeah.
He's beaten really good players. And so there's some win equity there. Again, this is not a play on, I think Keegan's the best play of the whole thing. I think if I'm going to play someone who's 90-1, let me play a guy with a massive ceiling, because guess what? If he finishes in 6th place, doesn't cash the bet.
Yeah.
This is just for an outright play. I like him for an outright.
Mate, I'll go third. I'll go to my long shot because it's 90-1 as well.
Yeah.
And I've got a guy who's not far removed from winning. Canadian Corey Connors.
Oh, that's a really good one.
Right. So So again, we were talking about the Duffner 10 years ago clones, and that's where I said this is where I'm sort of starting to trend. I looked at his numbers from leading into this event 10 years ago.
Yep.
Got all his ranks, got all his numbers in the stroke gains metric, got all of that, and found comparative players. With that caveat that I spoke about, they've changed the course. But I still like the idea that type of player should play reasonably well here. And when you see that number 90-1 for a guy who does stripe it, 20th off the tee, 17th tee to green, 15th approach, 10th in greens and reg, 27th in total. That's pretty decent. 90-1 as a long shot. I think that there's a little bit of value there for Connors.
I've got no problem with that. Look, Connors is the prototypical. He's going to ball strike it. If he gets hot with his putter, and who knows if and when it's ever going to happen, but if he gets hot with his putter, he can do some damage. And we've seen it in major championships. He's played really well at the Masters the last 4 years. So we've seen him play well. All right, I'll go to the 4th hole here. Top 5 play, and I'm going to go with a guy that, look, I've already got some outrights on him as well. I just didn't want to list too many outrights, so I'll knock him back a peg. I've got him number 2 in my ranking, but Xander Schauffele is just set up to play really good golf this week. I'm looking at a trend, and the trend has nothing to do with Oak Hill itself, Ben, but the trend that I'm looking at is the last 3 PGA Tour winners: Tony Finau in Mexico, Wyndham Clark at the Wells Fargo at Quail Hollow, and Jason Day last week at the Nelson. What they all have in common, they were all playing great golf. It's not like they just had one good week. They were all playing winning golf essentially for the whole season, and all of a sudden popped on the leaderboard and played their best golf for a singular week. Xander Schauffele is one of these guys. So is my favorite outright that I'll give you later in the show that you and I have talked about, that I think we're going to have the same one.
Yeah.
These guys have been playing really good golf throughout the year and don't quite have the results. This is what we call in the business the quote-unquote positive regression. That it's a term I don't love because it sounds like an oxymoron, yet I can't find a better term to use anyway. So we're going to go with the positive regression. It's not like Xander's played bad and had bad results. He's actually played really well and had pretty good results. He's due for one of these really good results. I can see it coming this week. So I've got him top 5 at plus 400. But look, if you want to jump on the 18-1 for outright instead, I've got that as well.
All right. Well, if you're going top 5, I'm going to give you value for a top 5. You're talking about guys who have been playing pretty decent. What about the guy who was runner-up last week and is still 1,100 for a top 5 in Siwoo Kim?
Ooh.
Now, 80-1 to win. 11, as I said, 1,100 for the top 5. Now, I might be falling victim to recency bias, but actually, here's what shocked me. We've always known him as the rocks and diamonds type player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great one week,
yep.
Crap the next. He's only missed 2 cuts this year.
He's been very consistent.
He has
over
been
the last year and a half. He's
consistent.
been very consistent.
He won in Hawaii, And he's a consistent golfer right now. Only 2 missed cuts, as I said. He's 14th in driving accuracy. Going to be important here. 25th in scoring average, 19th tee to green, 25th on approach, 23rd total. Former players winner, not afraid. And as I said, he took it to Jason last week. You know, like he was right there. He was the guy that I thought was the most likely behind Jason and crew to make a run on Sunday, and it almost turned out to be the case. So again, you're talking about guys who are playing well, not necessarily, have won in the last few weeks, but there's another one that gives you significant value, and I think that Seawood could contend here.
Benny, can I ask you a question before we go any further?
Yes.
What is that shirt you're wearing right now?
The International President's Cup team logo.
Okay, the International President's Cup team. So far, let me think. You picked Jason Day, Corey Connors, Siwoo Kim. I know you've got at least one more coming. I just are we putting the whole team on this? You want to take Silverwoman and Mike Weir for something as well?
Let me see here. Are there any?
Yeah, I just saw one. You just scrolled through there. Usually when we're at our respective homes, I can't look over your shoulder. You're back home in LA. I can look over your shoulder.
Yes,
now.
there's one or two Yanks there. Look, but I'm definitely heavy international.
All right. I'm going to go then and stick with the U.S. team. America, the beautiful, home of the brave. Okay, I've already got Bradley and Schauffele on there. With the 6th hole, I will go with another American and another top 5 play in Max Homa. I know everybody's all over Homa. The entire betting world is going to bet him down to some stupid even money number by the time we get to LACC next month, because everyone seems to think he's going to play well there. And I don't think that's wrong. Like, I'm not saying that he won't play well there. I am saying that I think this one might suit his game just a little bit better. Wow. I could see, I mean, there are some similarities, some comparisons to be made, and this is going to sound a little silly, Ben, but TPC Potomac at Avenel Farms, which held the Wells Fargo last year. Chilly, wet, thick rough. You just got to kind of grind out a few days there. And that's exactly what he did. And oh, by the way, Keegan Bradley was second in that tournament.
Jason Day should have won that. He choked on the weekend.
Yes. And so, look, naming a few players from that leaderboard isn't necessarily a bad idea. We all know Max Homa's win equity with 6 career titles already. Hasn't done it in major championships yet. Only one finish better than 40th place in his, I believe, 14 career major starts, but that's going to turn around. He's too good of a player for that not to change. And so I'm going to go with Max Homa, top 5 plus 700 is a really nice number for it.
Yeah, that's not bad. All right, well, I'm going to go to one of my Yanks just to cut you off because I looked over your shoulder and see you have him. I'm going to give you a top 40 player. It's somewhat conservative. But again, someone who might surprise a few people how consistently he's been going. But Rickie Fowler, who's minus 120 for top 40. I know that's not a lot, but it's still, I feel like a decent conservative bet. 6,500 to win as well if you want to have a dabble sort of across the board. I wouldn't be upset if you were thinking top 20, top 30 as well. But look, I've written in my preview, one of the real sneaky success stories of the season. He's put up 9 straight top 40s. 9 straight. The last 5, all top 20s.
He's been a top 15 player on the PGA Tour. He really has.
He comes, and like I said, he also comes up with a few of the quote unquote Duffner stats ahead of this week. 7th in strokes gained approach, 16th tee to green, 11th total. Former prodigy is 8th in scoring average, 31st in greens in regulation. So it was through him popping on this Duffner thing I was going down.
Yep.
And then it let me look into it. It had sort of caught me by surprise. I knew he was playing okay, but that many straight top 40s and that many straight top 20s. Maybe he's really on his way back. And that is another comparison to the Jason Day scenario, right? Like a guy who
there's a
sliding to win.
Comparison between Day and Fowler, guys that are on that comeback trail, start feeling it again. They get the confidence, they get the momentum. I think there are a ton of comparisons to be made. Maybe the only comparison you can't make is that Day was once number 1 in the world. He's won a major championship. He's been there. I think it's going to be a little tougher for Rickie to get back to that level because he's never quite been at that level. But look, he's played great golf in majors in the past. And so I like him this week. I'm going to, on the 8th hole, I can recite every stat you just said there because I'm going with Rickie as well. But I'm going to instead recite one thing you did say. I don't hate it if you go top 20 instead of top 40.
Yeah.
I have Rickie for a top 20 here. Look,
All right.
and as I wrote in my preview, I don't mind if you go top 5 or top 10.
Right. Yeah.
I am that bullish on Rickie this week. And if you're one of those who's like, I casually pay attention, I know Rickie's playing better, but come on, man. You've been giving me Rickie Fowler for 12 years, which I have, by the way. I've been saying Rickie Fowler for like as long as I've been doing this. I will tell you that the substance outweighs the hype these days. I get it. There were times when he was on every single commercial break and he was, laying by the pool and selling insurance every time you turn the TV on, but he's playing some really, really good golf and he fits this golf course really well. So again, top 20 at plus 275 for me, but you want to go top 5, you want to go top 10, I don't hate it whatsoever.
Yeah, as I said, like there's a lot of reasons to pick him. So
yeah,
don't be afraid. Okay, where are we at?
Ninth hole.
All right, let's see. Let me give you let me give you a top 10. Cue the music.
Come on.
Another international man, another one from my home country. Look, he's got 2 top 10s in a row. We're talking about having success coming in, keeping the run going. Adam Scott. I think 6,600 to win, 450 for a top 10. You can call me a homer, as I said here, but like nobody's swinging it nicer than Adam at the moment. He's got that rhythm back to his golf swing. He was T5 here 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows, of course, somewhat. Obviously, they changed it a little bit. But he also, again, if it runs true to form and that he only needs to putt half decently, then he'll be fine. He's also putting quite well at the moment.
Well, that's the point that I was going to make to you is that I was going to rain on your parade by saying he's put it out of his mind the last 2 weeks. So yes, he's finished top 10, but is he really going to putt that way this week as well?
So here's the thing. So I said, this is what I wrote in my preview. To buy into my thinking here, you have to suspend your season-long data.
Yeah.
Right? And just go into the last 2 events, right? Because he struggled on approach, greens and reckon driving accuracy this season.
Mm-hmm.
But the last 2 weeks, Quail Hollow, 32nd off the tee, 15th tee to green, 15th approach, 9th putting. Craig Ranch, 3rd putting. Come on.
Look,
and 54th approach. Look,
if you think Adam Scott's going to finish 3rd in putting,
he led the field in birdies last week. T1 in birdies last week. Okay, I see it as value. Think he's in a good headspace.
Yeah.
I think he's in that rhythm that he needs. He needs to sort of get the flow going. He loves places that he's played well before. So even if it is a completely different course, he will in his head have it like, oh, I've got this place. I know this place.
I will also make, not just because they're Australian mates of yours, that I will make another Jason Day comparison that at some point when you go to these other events, when you show that like, I want it so badly that, yeah, I'm going to go play the Nelson and grind my butt off the week before a major championship. It's the golf gods pay you back.
Okay.
There's something to be said, and we've talked about it here on the pod. I've talked about it on my radio show that I give Adam Scott a lot of credit because if you had asked me 5 years ago, I would have said by 2023, now Adam Scott's going to go hang in the Bahamas. He's going to go surfing. He's going to play the 4 majors, maybe 8 other events that he feels like playing. And when he's not playing, and he might show up on Wednesday afternoon, and when he's not playing, you won't see him, you won't hear from him, you won't see him at all.
Yep.
And the fact that he is playing, and he's playing a lot of golf. He's playing some good golf. He's working hard. I give a ton of credit to Adam Scott, who, quite frankly, at this point in his career, doesn't need to be doing any of this, but he's doing it because
he's got a lot of kids. He's got a lot of kids now, mate. He's got to get out.
I mean, if we're making a Jason Day comparison, he doesn't have that many, does he?
Oh, no, he's 3, and Jason has
3 now?
Adam has 3, yeah. Jason has 4, and obviously the 5th on the way.
By the way, I love social media yesterday when, like, everyone's like, oh, my God, Dash Day has gotten so old. I'm like, well, did you think he was going to get young? Like, that's kind of what happens.
The cool thing for Dash, I will say, this is the first time he's really old enough to get it done. So,
we're getting our picture taken here in the hotel lobby as we just the star-studded list of media colleagues walking through the lobby is just taking pictures and making fun of us. All right. That's the front 9. We're going to get to the back 9 in just a second. But first, a reminder, the Links and Locks podcast is proudly presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer. Bet $1 on any game to get $200 in bonus bets. Must be 21 or older. Offer available in Colorado, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia in the U.S. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, we make the turn, and I always love starting off on the 10th tee with my first round leader play. And Benny, I can give you a little nod here.
All right.
I don't like doing this.
I should have read your stuff. Have you given me a nod here?
Well, no,
I didn't name me.
I didn't mention you in the piece.
Yeah, once or twice. I like to
talk about you because usually on a regular basis, I like going after some long shots.
Yeah, I was expecting 100 to 1 shot here. You read.
Yeah, and most of us do. Look, this is a nice way to try to cash a lottery ticket, especially if it's chopped. If you've got 3 or 4 guys who all shoot 66 on Thursday, well, if you've got a guy at 120 to 1, that's going to pay a whole lot more than the guy at 20 to 1 who's going to chop with those guys. So I get it, trying to go after a long shot play first round leader. That's what I usually try to do. But I looked at the top 4 on the list for the PGA Tour this season. Their names: Jon Rahm, Viktor Hovland, Scottie Scheffler, and Xander Schauffele. What that tells us is that, look, good players, they play well every single day. It doesn't matter if it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And so if you're trying to find a little equity in here, I'll take the guy with the highest odds of those 4 this week, because I don't, Ben, necessarily trust Viktor Hovland for 4 rounds.
Correct.
I think at some point I was doing my radio show from just above one of the practice chipping areas in the practice facility, which is really the West Course here at Oak Hill. And boy, it's going to be really tough to go up and down. I mean, if you're look, I get it. First of all, Viktor Hovland, it's probably overdone the fact that he has struggled with a wedge in his hands over the last few years. He's improved immensely this year. Give him credit for that. But at some point, he's going to have to get up and down a lot. It's going to be some tough lies around there. I don't necessarily trust him, but for 1 round at 40 to 1, first round leader Thursday, sure. I will say I'm befuddled. I'm flummoxed. Don't laugh at me. I can't figure out because, all right, here's the deal. Thursday morning, cold. We had a frost delay on Monday morning.
Almost certain we'll have one Thursday, by the way. I've talked to the local meteorologist. Thursday morning, frost delay, very likely.
So it's going to be cold. The ball's not flying anywhere. You don't like playing that. That said, I was also out there doing my show late in the afternoon, and the wind started kicking up. I mean, it was a good 1.5 to 2 club wind in the afternoon. So I'm sitting there going, well, morning, cold, wet, ball's not flying anywhere, but at least a little bit calmer. And then in the afternoon, okay, warm. Sun came out. We're about 15 degrees, 20 degrees warmer, but that wind is getting a little harsher. And so I can't quite figure out which side of the draw that I want to be on. I believe that some folks have mentioned, and I will give credit to, there's a tweeter who mentioned this to me just a little while ago, James Wiley, who mentioned that Thursday afternoon looks like a little less wind than Friday afternoon, and Friday morning looks a little warmer than Thursday morning. So you might want to, if you're stacking for DFS purposes or something like that, you might want to look at the late early draw.
Okay.
But I don't know if that necessarily means for first round leader plays that Thursday afternoon is going to give us much of a benefit over Thursday morning. I think, especially if there's a frost delay, they're just going to wait until it warms up a little bit. So I don't know that there's that advantage there.
Well, I lost my first bet because I would have probably laid money that you would say someone like Tom Hoge at $1 million to be first round leader.
I do like that.
And he showed at the players he can go low.
Yes.
So that's a guy, but I'm sticking solid with my usual, like you said, top of the board, first round leader for me. Give me Scottie Scheffler. That's where I think you can get, value again, quote unquote, on Scheffler. There isn't a stat here this week that is against him, right? Like, so he's a favorite for a reason. Right. He's coming in off 5th. He looked to me like a guy playing with his B game most of last week, and he had a decent chance to win the tournament still with that B game. And I also believe that on Saturday and Sunday, he didn't get out of second gear. Like, he had a go, but he wasn't like pushing it hard.
Yeah.
He was conserving energy and seeing where the chips fell. So it's just remiss of us not to at least mention the favorite. I hate that 8 to 1 or 750 or whatever you get for Scheffler overall. And so with that said, I would do what I usually like to say is I'd look at him for the first round leader and stay off in the outright. If he doesn't start well, look at him outright for a comeback from there. If he does do well, great. You're on him. You've cashed. You're ahead, and then you can get further on him at this plus 600 or 500 will be if he shoots the first round lead, right? Like, you're not getting a huge return at 800. You're getting less, I know, at 400, but at least you know that he likes the course and he's getting going, and that's why I advocate for sprinkling your outrights further down to begin with. But if you're looking to hedge somewhere with Scheffler, the first round leader gives you that opportunity. I mean, I could look at this. First strokes going off the tee, first tee to green, first greens and regulation, second scoring average, second total. Like, he is just ridiculous right now. And yeah, I feel like, I know it's obviously him and Rahm at the top.
Sure.
I don't know why, but I feel like this time I'm leaning Scheffler as opposed to Rahm, whereas at the Masters, we were correct in saying that Rahm ahead of
the Grand Slam in a single year. Tiger Woods in 2002 and Jordan Spieth in 2015. One point that I'd like to make, because Bet365, as we look at this and we're taping on Monday night, they are both at plus 800. So they're co-favorites at Bet365. I looked at another book earlier today. This morning, Monday morning, Jon Rahm was a half-point favorite over Scottie Scheffler. By the afternoon, I looked at it. Scottie had stayed exactly the same, but Rahm had jumped up a point, and Scottie was then the favorite over Rahm by a half point. I would make the case, and I was asked this on the radio today, who should be the favorite if I was doing the odds making. I would say that I think I'd put Rahm as the outright favorite just by a half point, just because I think his ceiling is a little bit higher than Scheffler's. But if it was a top 5, top 10 prop, I think I might have Scottie just a little bit shorter than Rahm, because Scottie's floor is higher right now. Scottie's not finished outside of the top 12 in 13 straight events. That's remarkable consistency. So really like that from him. All right, that was your 11th hole. Let's get to the 12th hole. A lot of Americans. I know I broke the string there with Viktor Hovland. We're going back to the red, white, and blue, though, with a guy who should be on the Ryder Cup team this year, and that's local kid. I say that, quote unquote, Cameron Young. Look, I did the math on this, or at least did the Googling on this. Cameron Young grew up 5 hours away from here. This is not a home game, but he still understands sort of this style of grass, playing on bent grass greens, these kind of golf courses. Look, I walked this course for a little bit today, or I had someone drive me around this golf course for a little bit today. Look, that's how I roll. I've known this a long time. So
chauffeur.
If I want to look at a golf course, somebody drives me. I'm not using my feet. Not a practice round on a Monday. Looking at it, it looks like so many golf courses in the New York area that are like these great old style tracks. And so Cameron Young should be very, very used to playing these types of courses. I'm going to list him here for a top 10 prop at plus 300, but pick your poison. If you like him for an outright, you like him for a top 5. If you want to be more conservative, play him for a top 20 instead. Look, obviously the guy's got plenty of game. We're looking for guys who drive it long and straight this week. That's him.
Yeah, look, to your point, I'm sure he played a lot of events, somewhere within the 3-hour radius of here, you know what I mean? Like in a lot of similar courses, etc. So, and he will have, and I know this doesn't necessarily mean a lot, but he'll have extra support. Like the New York crowd will know he's from New York, and he'll get that extra boost from the crowd.
Not to mention, I will throw on another sign for this Narrative Street. If we're walking down Narrative Street, much like Justin Thomas, who has garnered a little bit more motivation knowing he's the son of a PGA professional. So is Cameron Young. Grew up at Sleepy Hollow. His dad is still his coach. Yes, exactly. I think that for those guys, maybe it just means a little bit more. It doesn't mean the other guys don't want to win, but just means a little bit more.
Yeah, well, it becomes, like it seems like a silly argument to me when we always ask what's your favorite major to a player, or which one do you want to win the most, or whatever else. I get the question. And I also get why there are different answers. And usually in the past, if you took the poll, this one might fall at the back end. But I also would not be surprised at all if, a JT or a Cam Young especially put this one way up there, because it is what they grew up in. It is what means something to their families and to their lifestyle and where they've been. So I think we shouldn't underestimate that. You're right.
Yeah.
The guy, I'm going to go my top 20 play here in what am I at the 13th hole now. A guy who may play against in that Ryder Cup coming up at the end of the year. I'm going to go with Tyrrell Hatton here for a top 20. Plus 138, 140-ish for that top 20. Again, playing well recently. T3 Wells Fargo, T5 Byron Nelson in his last 2 starts, runner-up at the Players, 2 further top 10s this season at designated events at Phoenix and Arnold Palmer. He's also 5th in strokes gained total. He's 6th tee to green, 6th scoring average, 8th off the tee, 13th on approach. He is playing really well. Now, where am I a little worried? It's been a long time, I think, since I've seen his name pop up in contention at a major championship. You got some stats on me
right here. As Justin Ray, stats guru from the 21st group, tweeted out earlier today, he is one of, I believe, 6 players who has made the cut in each of the last 5 majors. So the Masters this year and all 4 last year. He's up there with, I believe, Fitzpatrick, Scheffler.
Okay.
A couple others.
A few others. Anyway,
and a few others. I forget who else.
You know, he's got, well, I'm looking there over your shoulder now. What's that? 5 top 10s in majors in his career. Without not necessarily doing great recently. Making the cut, though, showing that he's still there, getting that narrative going. I said this season, really playing consistently well in big events.
Right.
Has all the statistics that should play well here in his favour. So I feel like actually top 20 is a conservative play. Tyrrell Hatton could threaten late on Sunday here.
He's a guy that I never quite give enough credit to. And not because I don't like him. I really like watching him play. Not because I don't like his game, but I always feel like there might be one thing that sets him off this week. And I don't know what it's going to be. And I don't know if he knows what it's going to be. He might come out and say, wow, I really like this place. This is fun. I'm going to really enjoy myself. I love Rochester. And then, I don't know, they might overcook his burger in, player dining. And all of a sudden he gets pissed off and he's like throwing clubs all over the place and giving trees the finger this week. I don't know. And so for a volatile player like that, it's like, I just have a tough time putting my money on him because I don't know where his mindset's going to be.
Oh, greatest. All due respect, as best as I could put that. We always say that before we smash someone a bit, don't we?
Yeah.
But I don't think there would have be a tougher player to caddy for than that guy, except for Robert Allenby. the amount of times I've been walking close to Tyrrell and it doesn't even have to be that bad of a shot.
Yeah.
But the quick vitriol that goes towards that. It's got to have the thickest skin ever because, and I think that they know. I think that it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, I think so too. He's now got Bo Martin on the bag, who used to be on Shane Lowry's bag, and of course looks like Shane Lowry in 30 years. So for whatever that's worth. All right, let's get to the 14th hole. You've already accused me of trying to play Tom Hoge in a few other spots, so I'll play him here for a top 40. And quite frankly, I like Hoge a lot better than this.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, he's got some Duffner vibes to him. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that is a very, very good ball striker. He's just a plotter. He's a plotter, but we also often think of plotters as guys who they don't make too many mistakes. So they'll just kind of go about their business. Hope can go low. We saw a 62 in the 3rd round of the Players' Championship this year. This guy can play. He's plus 175. If you want some other names there for top 40s, I'll throw Adrian Meronk in there, which I think a lot of people parachuting in for the week. Don't know Meronk that well. He won the French Open a couple of weeks ago. And then I get to name an Aussie that Benny didn't name. I thought he got them all. Cam Davis for a top 40 as well.
He pops up on the metrics. So there you go.
Yeah.
Cam Davis. All right. Well, where are we now? 15?
15.
I'll give you an Aussie that we haven't mentioned yet. And I haven't mentioned in a while. I haven't mentioned probably much since I had a drink with him out of the claret jug. But I think that it'd be wise to look at Cam Smith this week. And I see that at the Bet365 player markets, they have it 30 or better at the minus 120 juice. I'm going to say Cam Smith off the back of his playoff loss. By the way, too, he had the one thing I did see, and this is literally the only thing I saw for obvious reasons, but were the last 2 putts. Mm-hmm. DJ's putt from the fringe got kind of a good hop and great putt and went in. Cam on almost the same line. Didn't get to hop over that first bit of break that pushed his ball, and you would almost think Cam will make that putt every day of the week. It was just a little bit of luck, I think, that he didn't. And he's finally looking like he's got some of his mojo and form back after having a pretty, by all reports, long, decent off season. And so I just think from what I know of him in the past, even though I have not spent any time or talked to him in a long time, I think it would be silly not to keep an eye on him this week.
You can't make this up, folks. You know you guys listen every week. We do not talk to each other before the pod. I have listed at number 16 on my list another live player, and it's a player market bet, and it's not Cam Smith. It's the guy that beat him in the playoff yesterday, Dustin Johnson. I wish that I could just admit that it's recency bias. And I said, well, he played really well the last few days, so I'm going to take him. I had DJ written down for a spot even before he started playing well at that live event in Oklahoma this past week. Look, I just started thinking about last week. Big, brawny, Northeast, old-style golf course. Yeah, Brooks Koepka fits too, and I don't mind Brooks whatsoever. But I really like Dustin Johnson. And what I really liked about him coming off that victory, not just that he won, but in the interview afterwards, and we do this thing on a radio show called Press Conference Interpretations.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Where we try to listen to players, and is it, yeah, I'm playing pretty well right now. Yeah, I'm playing pretty well right now. I mean, that's the same words, and it's two completely different meanings.
Yeah.
And if we were to interpret Dustin Johnson saying those words after the live event on Sunday, we go, oh yeah, he's playing well. It's not pretty well. I'm playing well. I mean, he really sounds like a guy who look, he's been doing this long enough. He knows when he's doing something pretty good. He's doing something pretty good. Player finishing market 27th or better for DJ. Come on, Bet365. You're giving away money.
And there is some comparison. Again, I haven't been out there yet. I'm going by other people's reports and people I know that have been there today and checked it out. People are starting to make comparisons. A bit of Bethpage Black.
Yeah.
Now, if you remember the last major that was there, DJ and Brooks were both pretty heavy in the mix there.
Exactly.
So if that is the case, and I'll find out more of that in the next few days.
Well, that one was a PGA for Bethpage, was it? A few years ago?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
was it? No, US Open. No, PGA. Yeah,
right. The PGA. By the way, I've said a few times this week that I think by the time the week is over, Oak Hill will be a sort of PGA Championship US Open hybrid.
Right, that makes sense.
That, we won't look at it at the end of this week and go, oh my God, the PGA turned into a US Open. Guys are, shooting even par and, on the leaderboard. It's not going to be like that. But it's also, I mean, we've seen PGA Championships where 18 under, 16 under, 20 under, win that golf tournament. It's not going to be that either. Yeah. So it's going to look sort of US Open-ish, but more like a PGA Championship, kind of in between the two.
So are you going to say kind of like the players?
Nothing could ever top the fifth major.
Let's get it. All right.
17th.
I get to go first.
You get to go first. But we've been talking about this for weeks.
Yeah, we have been, and as I said, regular listeners will know we're not just piggybacking off the bloke who won last week in a random place of all places.
What was that?
Home team, hometown, home event back in Korea.
Yeah.
We're going with Sungjae Im. Now, let me give you some similarities to Duffner again. You know what? Sungjae Im's 30-1. Duffner, 30-1 going into that. Okay. There's one omen there. But very similar type of game to, that is to me, the modern, that's the guy, right? That is playing like Duffner played back then. He's 12th off the tee, 14th tee to green, 10th total. Driving distance is 105th. Just like Duffner was. Mid-tier stuff. They were both not long, but not short. Right? Sat right in the middle. And their driving accuracy was great.
Yep.
Im's 20th in driving accuracy.
Yes.
His approach game, the number 60 is a little misleading because last year he was 24th or in the year before that and the year before that. He's a little off in the approach this year, but in the events where he's played well, he's been right up there, right? Yeah. So if he's on, he's on.
Yeah.
And that doesn't go away. He's a machine. So look, he's a proven iron player. He's 9th in scoring average on tour. I just have been sort of gung-ho pointing this way for a month at least. His game just trends towards what this course did a decade ago and what should, even with the changes, still play well here. So that's why another international man, Sungjae Im for me, is a big, big hope.
18th hole, Sungjae Im outright. Look, we've talked about this for a few weeks now, but yes, you and I have the exact same play for our favorite outright this week.
What happened the last time we had the same outright?
That was Tony Finau in Mexico 3 weeks ago.
Was a little not as big of a pick.
No,
but that's another omen, maybe.
Look, I go back to what I said about Xander Schauffele at the beginning of this podcast. We said about Rickie Fowler as well. When the guys are playing really well, and we've seen this, Finau 3 weeks ago, Wyndham Clark 2 weeks ago, Jason Day last week, all of them were playing really, really well. They were trending in the right direction and finally played their best golf and won a golf tournament.
Yeah.
Sungjae Im has been playing really, really well. He's gone 7th, 6th, 8th in his last 3 PGA Tour starts. And as you mentioned, 1 and 3 of this past weekend. He's gained strokes with his approach game in 5 of his last 7 starts.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, 60th with the iron play, but that's gotten a lot better. I like everything about him this week. I think those numbers that you mentioned, and again, 105th in driving distance, right about dead even on the PGA Tour. That's not short. That's 297 yards. That's it. Like, you don't need to be 330 here every drive. Like 297 is fine,
especially if you're accurate. 297 driving accuracy.
Yes,
sweet.
Don't be short and crooked or medium length and crooked. Short and crooked is no way to go through life, kids. Medium crooked isn't at a PGA championship either, but he is medium length, which is long enough, and he is straight off the tee, which I think is a huge benefit. Like everything about it. He is a much better chipper and putter than I think he gets credit for. 100%. I go back to the 2020 November Masters. And look, there's something to be said for that event being a little bit of a comparison to this one as well. 2020 November Masters, where he finished runner-up to another guy that I just mentioned a minute ago, Dustin Johnson. So like that as well.
Yeah. Again, we're just repeating the same things here because we both like him. But as I said, he's not top level putting, not top level chipping. But again, I'm going back to the Duffner scenario. Neither was he.
Yeah.
He hit it well enough that just mid-range putting, mid-decent average chipping was enough to keep him in contention and then ultimately win this tournament 10 years ago. So that's the same for all those guys, right? I trot this one out a lot on Adam Scott, but I remember a few years ago, I went back and looked at the times whenever he finished in the top 25 in strokes gained putting, his result in the tournament was top 5. So just be in the top quarter or whatever it was, or, the top 20% in putting for the week. And he was such a good ball striker that he was guaranteed to contend, win or contend.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with these guys. If they just putt on the average, they're going to be contending. If they putt above the average, they're hard to beat.
The other thing I've said about Sungjae is that I believe he's on a level that's equivalent to, okay, maybe not the Xander Cantlay Finau level, but I would put him right there with a Colin Morikawa, with a Jordan Spieth. I think he's pretty close to that. Doesn't mean he's got the resume, the pedigree, everything else that goes with it. But I do think that just talent level, but his price isn't the same on a regular basis as those other guys, because he hasn't won as much as those other ones. It's going to happen. He's got 2 wins on the PGA Tour. A lot of those other players I mentioned have majors already. They've won many more times than he has, but it's coming. Sungjae's coming. He's going to win. He's going to win big events, and I think this is a perfect spot for him.
Now, I know we don't usually, this is not your radio show, and we're usually just picking bets here, but I want to, for our international listeners, I know a couple of the Aussies out there like to listen, I just want your thoughts on 2 guys we both have steered completely clear of. You just mentioned one in Spieth, coming off the WD. And we did not mention Rory McIlroy one time in this podcast. So tell me, just give the listeners your take on those 2.
To me, the 2 biggest X factors in this entire tournament. First of all, I am less optimistic about Jordan Spieth. Let me hear from him. And so Colt Knost, our colleague, mentioned on the radio earlier Monday afternoon that Jordan was coming in Monday night. I don't like that he's getting in late, certainly, that he hasn't seen this place yet. And I certainly don't like that in a place with thick, juicy rough and a guy that doesn't drive it very straight in the first place. He's going to come out here and hey, let's see what we got and see if the wrist holds up. So I'm not very optimistic about Jordan this week, if indeed that wrist is as bad as he's making it sound. As for Rory McIlroy, look, would it surprise you? All right, 2 questions. First question, would it surprise you if Rory McIlroy won by 5 this week?
A little, but not really.
Would it surprise you, second question, if Rory McIlroy missed the cut by 5 this week?
Nah.
Yeah. And there's my point exactly, which is, look, we talk about ceilings and floors, and I mean, Rory McIlroy is like a skyscraper right now, and he's going all the way to the basement, and you've got that You've got 40 floors in between the top and the bottom. We will hear from him as you're pointing on your screen to me right now. Tuesday morning, by the time most people are listening to this podcast, Rory McIlroy will be speaking to the media at 9 a.m. Although, quite frankly, Benny, I'm not sure there's anything Rory's going to tell us. Unlike Jordan, where I want to hear from Jordan. I want to hear how's the wrist? How's he playing? Is there anything he can't do? How's the prep bid for this? Has he played at home? Rory, I'm not sure there's a question you can ask Rory right now where he's going to tell you, like, kind of give it up, give you a little hint. I will say he's a member here at Oak Hill. He's seen this golf course probably more than anyone else since the changes a few years ago.
Okay.
His wife grew up around here. The in-laws still live, I think, about 10, 15 minutes away. So maybe there's a little bit of an upper hand, but I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. As I said, that's Royce. It smacks to me as you said he's not going to say much. Don't you get the feeling though he wants to say something? It's not the right setting. I get the feeling there's something going on, not just golf in Rory's existence. And I get the feeling that he wants to get some things off his chest, whatever it may be, but hasn't been given the right place to do that. It's just the feeling I'm grabbing. So
interesting.
It'd be keen to talk to the few of the guys who are much closer to him. And again, not prying, not anything like that, but he just has that feeling that. And look, the reason I say this is obviously we talked about the guy who won last week, very close to Jason Day. Like yes. I knew for years about his mother's health and knew things were coming and whatever. And people asked me, when's he going to be back? And I knew that she was still sick again. And I would say, oh, he'll be back. And I knew that was going to take, closure in that part of his life before he could really turn the corner. I don't know. I could be completely misreading this, but I just feel like there's something with Rory, like that he's just not quite comfortable with in his existence, and he needs to get whatever that is on track. And maybe he has in the last few weeks. And then if he does, it'll be like lights out again. Let's go.
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't have an answer to that. What I do know, Benny, is that our beers are empty. We gotta go refill them. So that's it for the podcast tonight. We thank everybody out there for listening to this special PGA Championship edition of the Links and Locks podcast presented by Bet365. Remember, you can find our podcast anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Download, subscribe, rate, and listen every single week during the PGA Tour season. For Ben Everill, who's sitting way too close to me still, I cannot wait to just walk away from Benny. I'm moving my chair over already. For Ben Everill, I'm Jason Sobel. Thanks, everybody, and good luck with your picks for the PGA Championship. Here's hoping you hit the green.